Nigeria Air to launch operations from April 2022, says the Federal Executive Council. Reports predict all export and household spending to drive Nigerian economic growth in 2022. All eyes are now on OPEC and allies as oil prices slip. And U.S. inflation jumps and stock markets show worried sentiments. And of course, this is Business Express, and we're reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Leah Katin. Bye-bye today. Now, all things being equal, Nigerian Air, the nation's national carrier, will take to the skies in April 2022. These followed the approval of the outlined business case for the project by the Federal Executive Council. Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika announced this while briefing journalists after the meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday.
Which, of course, if you remember back in time, this was subject to national debate, and 400,000 people participated to choose the name, the color, the logo, everything. And it was produced that time. And it was launched also in Farnborough as far back as 2018. If started, and within the first few years, will generate about 70,000 jobs. These 70,000 jobs, they are higher than the total number of civil servants that we have in the country. Its importance had been well discussed, but one important item is the AU Agenda 2063, which speaks to integration of Africa, which speaks to the commerce and trade within Africa, that is intra-Africa. The quickest way that you can integrate Africa is by air. Once the right policy is in place, like SATEM, you can connect Africa, and then, of course, the needed integration will happen.
The Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has expressed serious concern over the resurgence of Ponzi schemes and illegal fund managers in the country's financial sector. This is as more members of the investing public continue to fall prey to the activities of these illegal fund managers. This was made known by the Director General of SEC, Lamido Yuguda, Wednesday in Abuja, where he said the unlawful schemes had continued to enjoy massive patronage of the populace and remain a source of concern for regulators in the financial sector, but government is ready to fish them out. Given the dwindling revenue profile of the country and the attendant challenges on the cash flow occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic, economy managers across the country converge in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State for a 3-day workshop to work out strategies for economic recovery, growth, and development of the country. Ifoma Aikoji reports that the workshop is at the instance of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation.
Pandemic and snowballed into an economic pandemic was double-pronged, and to mitigate its numerous impacts, according to the Minister of State, Budget Clemi Kandiaba, the federal government developed several strategies to accelerate quick recovery of the economy.
Both health and economic data have continued to be on a positive trajectory in spite of the impact of COVID-19 pandemic.
It is therefore expected that the retreat of economic experts will examine policies and measures to enhance post-COVID-19 recoveries and sustainability to prevent deep recession.
When the world, as we knew it, was shut down, and the future of the world economy was in dire straits, it became exceedingly imperative that we came up with new approaches to growing our economy and adapt new ways of engagement.
Let us all
coming up with our proposed strategy, which, if fully adopted, implemented, and effectively applied, will greatly help in A, providing adequate financial shock absorber to the government.
Economic experts say it is imperative to profile new approaches to grow the economy, expressing hope that the workshop will develop a viable template. The 3-day 4th National Treasury Workshop at the instance of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, with the theme COVID-19 and the global economy, implications on the Nigerian National Treasury, will feature an array of thought-provoking papers on how to confront and overcome the challenges of pandemics, especially the COVID-19.
Now, what do you know about interstate trade in Nigeria and how to make the local communities viable? Well, it is a point for the success of Africa Continental Free Trade Area in Nigeria. And of course, the federal government has taken the campaign to states. In the midst of scarce revenue, one thing remains certain. Nigeria is a vast market space and a land of opportunity. Since signing the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement in 2019, Nigeria has continued to develop the strategy that will ultimately be beneficial to all. Hence, the interface between the National Action Committee on AFCFTA and subnationals. Access to market is critical. It is a wake-up call for subnationals to increase local investments and promote backward integration across sectors that include logistics, supply chains, and transportation infrastructure, first for local demand before exports.
We are aware that the era of oil is almost going, and then we have to develop our economy, and we have to provide all the necessary support for the economy to grow so that our people can benefit from the development of the economy. Jobs can be created away from oil and government.
The Action Committee has zoned states according to their peculiarities and readiness for trade to work out policies that would ensure smooth market entry.
At the end of today, we'll be able to say, yes, these are the products that we'll be focusing on. These are the capabilities that we need to build.
All economic sectors, tiers of government, and human capacities must be involved.
After the strategy workshop, outcomes will be communicated to governors and included in the national strategy on AFCFTA. Access to clean, modern energy services is an enormous challenge facing the African continent because energy is fundamental for socio-economic development and poverty eradication. Today, a large proportion of the Nigerian population actually do not have access to electricity. As global attention turns to alternative sources of clean and renewable energy, we will turn our attention, of course, to that sector, and that includes energy efficiency. Our guest is Monica Madukwe, an energy specialist who is the founder of Put-Through Technologies Limited. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, so great. I want to say, firstly, congratulations on your outing at COP26, and let's start by you telling us the relationship really between energy and the development of any given society like Nigeria.
Well, energy is fundamental. For example, if you look at the household or industries or even transportation, it all runs using energy. Our light bulbs, our electricity needed to power machines, or transport, for logistics, movement of goods, you need fuel. In industries, you need to burn energy in order to create work. So energy is fundamental. And you see, when you talk to those in the manufacturing sector, they tell you some of the biggest challenges they have is a high cost of electricity because it trickles down into the final cost of what they produce. And in Africa, generally, experts, McKinsey says that we pay about 3 to 6 times more than the global average for electricity. This therefore means our industries are less competitive globally. So if you cannot compete globally, then of course your industries remain smaller, they are shrinked, and we continue to rely very much on goods from outside the continent. And moving forward, we have to address this issue.
Okay, now for most people, though, say, I would ask the question most Nigerians will want to ask: how affordable are renewables when we lay them side by side with the other sources that we use, particularly in Nigeria?
Well, there are certain conditions that will make renewable more affordable than, for example, grid electricity. So grid electricity is the normal electricity we're used to having. And for renewables, you have, the mini grids that are just providing electricity to smaller communities. These are communities that are outside the grid. Now, if your community is in a remote area, and perhaps extending the grid, the transmission line to that community will require more investment, then having a mini grid project could be more affordable. But generally, we see that larger scale projects leverage economies of scale to provide more affordable electricity. So for us, we're not advocating for renewable energy blindly. We're saying that when it is more cost effective, choose renewable energy. But the goal is to have a system, an energy system that is more decarbonized, meaning that we're using cleaner fuels that ensure that at the end of the day, consumers have more affordable energy.
Okay, now there's also the argument that really we want to cut carbon emissions, but Africa is not at the center of these emissions. But again, there's the issue of getting a sustainable energy mix. So where are people like you in this whole discussion?
Okay, so as you know, Africa contributes among the least in terms of carbon dioxide emissions. So we contribute about 3.9% as of 2020, second only to the Southern and Central Americas, which contributed about 3.6%. You have the big emitters like China and the United States. However, at the COP26 and generally, people are pushing now that everybody has to be on a path of a declining carbon dioxide emission. Because if you look at advanced economies like the United States or Europe, over a certain 10-year period, the carbon dioxide emission has been declining. However, in Africa, it is positive, although very small, it's still positive. So a lot of these advocates are saying that the world needs to be on a declining pathway in order for us to be at a net zero emissions by 2050.
Some people say that Africa also contributes to the emissions, and then we also take our own part before cutting. But that aside, then, renewables in Nigeria, how has it been?
Well, the renewable energy sector in Nigeria is growing. I would say that in terms of the policies, the action plans, Nigeria is there. And, we have a good contribution of hydroelectricity in our electricity mix. However, there is limitations to increasing more renewables. So Nigeria is doing well in terms of using hydro, but you see, advocates requesting for more solar, more wind technologies being part of the energy mix. But in our paper, at the COP26 discussion paper we launched, we said that in order for us to increase these kinds of technologies, solar and wind, we need to deal with the issue of grid instability. Our grid is not stable enough to integrate intermittent renewable energy sources like wind and solar. We're asking for more investment in infrastructure, in transmission lines, and also in management practices. As you know, we have serious power cuts. As you mentioned also in your presentations, a great percentage of Nigerians do not have access to electricity. So these are some of the preconditions in order for Nigeria to be talking about net zero emissions in the power sector.
The Ministry of Works and Housing has been canvassing smart housing for Nigerians that will be cost effective and efficient, and some of those things he's been able to put across and present. I was at the ministry and he actually pointed me to the parking lot where all the lots, they are under the solar panels. Now, for for a place like Abuja, for instance, before we even go to the States, are people ready to embrace this?
People are interested in cost, the cost implication of this. Definitely people are willing to pay for electricity. If they are going to have stable electricity, they are willing to pay for it. Now, if the stable electricity, if they look at the cost profile is more affordable using solar, of course they will choose it. So people are just interested in how does this affect my pocket? And if you look at, the price of fuel or diesel, whatever you use in running your generator, and you look at solar panels, you need to compare them over the life cycle of your energy technology and decide which one is the best. I think Nigerians are embracing renewable energy. It's just the cost factor. The cost factor, the durability as well. If you go and import substandard panels that don't last, panels should last for 20 to 25 years, and if after 5 years it packs up, then of course this also feeds into the negative perception people have about renewable energy.
Okay, so what type of investment strategy and financing attention should Nigeria be giving to renewable energy if we want to achieve this very, very satisfactory energy mix?
Nigeria needs to look at the most fundamental thing for us is grid stability. We need to have a grid that works, meaning that instead of having power outages because there are some issues with electrical equipment, we need to look at how can we address it. That is for me the most fundamental thing, because once you can address, you have a stable grid, then you can integrate more solar and wind. There's been a lot of discussions, and I know TCN in 2018 announced that they had achieved very stable grid frequency of about 50.4 something hence. So, and it mentioned that this was the best in West Africa. So I know TCN is working to ensure that there's stable grid in the country, but we do still see some challenges. Infrastructure investment is very important, and we also support the use of Nigeria's natural gas. Nigeria needs to use is non-renewable and renewable energy resources. The mix needs to be it needs to be a pragmatic mix that allows the country to pursue energy access goals using least cost options.
Okay, I must sincerely thank you, Monica, for making time to come and share your experience with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. And so we're moving now to surviving COVID-19. Salihu Zairu is a point-of-sale operator who had some really downsides during the pandemic-induced lockdown. He told Stephen Aditutu he was aware of the CBN intervention, but does not know how to go about benefiting.
COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Yeah, I have been to POS business before COVID-19 started. Seriously, my business was going to move well, rightly, but the way I was achieving now, it's not by the time. When there was lockdown, my business was not moving. Why we say people, they're not used to come out like outing to draw something money, at least to get chilling at outside like that. So I was not getting them. When they locked down the COVID-19, it was not difficult, seriously. Why we see the business, immediately the oils called people for the COVID-19. My business now started moving well. Why we see people are coming in, withdraw, going out to eat it and do everything. I prefer business after COVID-19.
Why?
Why we say people are going out. Wherever the COVID-19 is releasing, people are going out everywhere they like to go. That's now I'm enjoying my business. Yeah, be moving normally. Yeah, I have heard of the Central Bank of 19 money that they are going to give people like that. So seriously, I just had it, but I didn't have achievement of it. I didn't get it. I don't know person that have collected the money. I just hear by the air, like story like that. Like seriously,
With that federal government money, if I get it, trustly, this my business POS, which will be open. I'm very acknowledgement of it, because we say the cash that I've been having down it will more increase, but whereby my business will be open to get much of enough things that I have.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
OPEC's Economic Commission Board held its 136th meeting Wednesday via video conference to review current developments in the global oil market. The meeting held a special session on global trade and the supply chain crisis. OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Sanusi Barikindo emphasized that global leaders must address disruptions in global trade and supply chains to optimize trade flows around the world and support a more holistic economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic.
In 2022, world oil demand is anticipated to increase by 4.2 MBD year-on-year, revised higher by around 0.9 MBD compared with the initial forecast published in July 2020. It is noteworthy that our latest projections indicate that there is a possibility that a global supply surplus could materialize sooner than anticipated in the first and second quarters of 2022. Moreover, we are keeping our eyes on the developments related to the release from strategic petroleum reserves in the U.S. up to 50 million barrels and potentially other consuming countries such as China, India, Japan, South Korea, and the UK.
Oil prices fell on Thursday, with investors waiting to see how major producers respond to the emergency crude release by major consuming countries designed to cool the market. However, data pointed to healthy U.S. fuel demand. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 0.1% to $78.3 a barrel this morning, while Brent crude futures slipped 5 cents to $82.2 a barrel. Analysts said U.S. Energy Information Administration data showed gasoline and distillate stockpiles fell more than expected, even as crude stocks rose, suggesting the market needed more crude. Nigerian equities market closed Wednesday trade on a flat note amidst sell-off and buy interest as the benchmark all-share index depreciated by 2 basis points. The NGX all-share index closed at 43,245.02 points to reflect a decline of 0.02 from the previous session. Meanwhile, the market capitalization increased by 11.36 billion naira. The market has just opened this morning in Nigeria, and we hope it cancels the previous flat performance. Well, let's see how stock markets are performing across the globe this Thursday.
European stocks are expected to open higher on Thursday as investors continue to monitor the COVID crisis in the region and political developments in Germany. The UK's FTSE index is seen opening 18 points higher at 7,303. Germany's DAX 59 points higher at 15,955. And France's CAC 40 up 30 points at 7,078. Shares in Asia Pacific were mixed in Thursday's trade as investors reacted to the Bank of Korea's rate decision. The Hong Kong index gained 0.24% as at its final hour of trading. Shanghai Composite shedding 0.24% to 3,584.18. The Nikkei 225 gained 0.67% to close at 29,499.28. U.S. stocks pushed modestly higher on Wednesday as the recent jump in bond yields took a breather, allowing tech stocks to recover, while African market opened mixed. South Africa's JSA Africa Top 40 opened positive. Namibia's overall index resumed negative, while others are yet to post new numbers. Boss Deebo, Business Express.
Thank you, boss. And that wraps this edition of Business Express. And it is, of course, the end of the show today. But we're going to return tomorrow at 3 p.m. Remember to keep in touch with us. So do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. My name is Leah Katum Babatunde. Do have a wonderful day.